Hello and welcome to yet another tutorial by Davies Media Design. My name is Michael Davies, and in today's tutorial I'll be showing you how to reveal a line art drawing in your photo. This is a GIMP photo manipulation tutorial. I'll be using GIMP version 2.10.14, which at the time of this tutorial is the latest version of GIMP. But of course, before I get into that, I want to direct you guys over to my website at daviesmediadesign.com. As always, I have tons of GIMP and Inkscape tutorials on here, my GIMP book of layers, and GIMP and Inkscape help articles, so definitely check that out. You can enroll in my GIMP 2.10 Masterclass from beginner to pro photo editing. You can enroll in any of my Skillshare classes by visiting gimpschool.com, and you can get more with a premium membership to Davies Media Design. Your premium membership includes access to my GIMP Help Center app, my GIMP book of layers, and other GIMP extras. And you can try out the subscription for free with a 7-day free trial. I'll include a link to this as well as all the relevant links from this tutorial in the description of the video. So here's the photo I'll be using for today's tutorial. You can click free download. I went with 1920 by 1280. This is from Pixabay. I'll link this in the description. And here is the final effect. So what I've done here is I've taken this photo, created a line art drawing of it behind it, and then I created a brush stroke. And so the line art drawing is revealed behind the brushstroke. This is a really cool and surprisingly simple technique to do. I will be using my Wacom Tablet for this tutorial today. You can use your mouse if you don't have a tablet, and everything I do with my hand drawing you can perform either using the paintbrush tool with your mouse, or you can use the paths tool if you want smoother lines. But I will be using my Wacom Tablet today, and I have a tutorial on how to set up your Wacom Tablet for GIMP, so check that out. Quick disclaimer, I am definitely not an artist, so this is even for non-artists, non-illustrators. You're going to be able to draw something really simple, and that's the point. You want it to look simple because it does look pretty cool when it's juxtaposed with the actual photo here. So actually the simple drawing the better, which is why this is a friendly tutorial for people who are not artists or cartoonists. So let's start by opening up the original photo. I'll go to File, Open Recent. And I'll just go with my traveler photo here. You can always just drag and drop your photo from your File Explorer or your Finder window into this area here, and that will open your photo up as a brand new photo. Next, I'll come over and just double click on this name and rename this photo. And then I'll come over and create a new layer. And I'm going to name this white because this is just going to be our white background, and I'll change the fill width here to white. Click OK. So now we have a brand new layer. It's the same size of our composition. I'm going to click and drag this below the photo layer. And then I'm going to click on the photo layer itself and turn down the opacity here just so we could see a bit of the white there. And it also helps to make the overall photo a bit lighter, which makes things easier to see. Then I'll come over, create another new layer. This one, the first thing I'll do is I'll change the fill width to transparency. That way this is a totally see-through layer. And I'm just going to rename this stroke. You can put a color tag on this, but I'll just click OK for now. So here's our stroke layer. We're going to use this layer to draw the stroke that we're going to use to, reveal the line art drawing a little bit later in this tutorial, at the end of the tutorial, I should say. So we're going to paint the stroke using a path. That way we always have the stroke if we need to come back to it later, which we will. So I'll come over here and grab the paths tool. And I'll start by clicking over here and creating my first node here for the path. And I'm just going to basically click and drag my path. And as I drag, that's going to create a curve. And so I'll click again, that creates another node, and I'll drag to create a curve. I'm just going to go back and forth here. Maybe move this. You can always move the node after you've drawn it to replace it. And I'll come back over here. And then one last time, I'll come back down here. So again, we can make some adjustments here. We can always drag the handles after we've drawn them to change the curve. And there we go. Once the curve or the stroke is drawn using the path tool, now we need to actually stroke the path in order to have that stroke show up. And we're going to be using the paintbrush tool to do this. So what we'll need to do is change the settings on the paintbrush tool to match how we want the stroke to look. So come over here and grab my paintbrush tool. That'll make the stroke disappear. You can always come back over here to the paths and unhide that path. And we can come over here and rename this stroke, just like you can rename a layer. And you can see when I hover my brush stroke over this, it's really small right now, the brush head. So I can come over here and just increase the size of this. And the brush is going to be following this stroke line, so you can get an idea of how this will look just by dragging your mouse along this and seeing what items are exposed. I'm going to decrease the size of the brush just a little bit here. And maybe we'll go up a bit more to around 125, 130. So that'll do for me. I'm also going to make sure the hardness is turned all the way up there. So all the way to 100. Then I'll come over here to my paths dialog and making sure we're on our stroke layer here. I'm going to come down and click the paint along the path button here. And instead of having the stroke line option checked, I'm going to have the stroke with the paint tool checked. That's going to stroke this with the same settings we just created over here. So now I'll click stroke. And by the way, make sure your color is set to white here. It's not super important what color it is. I just went with white for this particular case. You can always come down here, double click, and just drag this up to the corner, the top left corner. That'll change your color to white, and then go through those stroke options. So now we can hide the path. So this will be the area that we need to draw with our Wacom tablet or our mouse. And this will be, in other words, the cartoon area or the line art area. So now I'll come back up here to my layers panel. And I'm just going to change the mode of the stroke here to overlay. So that allows us to see what's going on below the stroke. We can also turn down the opacity a bit. We just need to know what areas we're going to be drawing on. So all of these areas here. Next, I'll come over, create a new layer, and I'll just name this sketch, or you can name it drawing. So here's our sketch layer, and this is the part where I'm going to use my Wacom tablet. If you don't have your Wacom tablet set up yet, definitely check out my tutorial on the subject. So I have my pen here, and I'm just going to flip this around so it's facing the right way. So what I can do now is I'm just going to decrease the size of my brush because I really don't need this to be a huge brush. In fact, I want it to be smaller. So the size is set to 6. I'm going to keep the hardness set to 100, and I'm just going to switch this so my color is black. You can click on this little icon here. That'll reset your colors to black and white. And using my mouse, I'm going to go Control and use the mouse wheel to zoom in a bit. So we're on our sketch layer. And now what I'll do is I'll just hand draw the lines that I see. Again, I'm no artist or cartoonist, anything like that. I'll hit Control Z. And actually what I like to do is I'll hold the Shift key and use the middle button on my mouse, and that allows me to rotate the canvas a little bit, and that's going to make this a little bit more like actually drawing on a piece of paper. So I like drawing things at a slight angle. You guys can do whatever you want. So I'm just going to draw along the line here, and anything that goes outside the area of our stroke will not actually be seen here, so it doesn't really matter what happens there. But in this case, I'm just going to draw past it like I did there. And actually, I'll hit Control Z. I'm going to redo that line. So this will definitely be trial and error, especially for those of you guys who are like me and you're not really big artists. And I'll just leave that part there for now. I like to start just a little bit above where I'm ultimately drawing. The reason being that GIMP is still not super great with the Wacom tablet. It still has some work to do there. But one thing I want to do, if you plan on filling these lines in, just draw a line across like so to make sure that these things are connected. Same with up top here. That makes sure this is connected as well. And if you want, you could draw a little bit of detail in here. You don't really need too much detail. Just enough for people to be able to see, that this is a pair of pants with some wrinkles in it. And you guys will see why I'm connecting these things a little bit later on. So this guy's pants happens to have a lot of wrinkles in it. That's all right. So we'll scroll down a bit. So now we have the lower portion of the pants here. So I'm just going to follow the contour, including the wrinkles. And we're going to leave this part for now. We're going to come back to it. I'll just create a little line there for where the pants show up again. And I chose this photo on purpose because it does have some detail, which you can have fun with, but it doesn't have so much detail that it makes this take, hours and hours to do. And I'll just connect this. And now with the shoes, we don't need to get too crazy with the details here, but just enough so people know this is a pair of shoes. I'll actually do this part here first. All right, there's the first shoe. We'll make sure that this is connected here and that this is connected. And then we'll come up top and I'll do the second shoe now. And I'll start the tongue of the shoe there, even though it's not really included. Make sure that's connected. And then lastly, I am going to include the shoelaces, and so I'll just sort of create these X's here. This is going off of what's actually going to be shown in the end, but that's okay. And this doesn't have to be perfect. And I think having it be imperfect is actually going to add some character to it. So I'm just going to quickly add some X's here to have the shoelaces crisscrossing. And you can also include some of the shoelaces hanging down like that if you want. So just following the shoelaces in the photo and not worrying about the lines being perfect. And if you want to include the little loop here, I just did like that. So just like a quick version of the loop. Nothing too crazy. All right, before we get into the bag over here, I'm just going to quickly add the lines that you see, the wrinkles in the pants, so maybe something there. And this line right here, these major wrinkles that you see, I'm just going to add lines along all of those. That way people can tell that these are pants, based on the contours of the lines. So just enough detail to tip the audience off as to what it is exactly that's there. And the reason I like using the Wacom Tablet for this is that it's going to take you a lot less time when you are hand drawing all these lines versus trying to go in with your mouse, which some of you are doing, so I'm not going to hate on it too much, but it's definitely going to be a bit more time consuming with the mouse. And one of the things GIMP is not great with is very short lines using a tablet. So we'll do the best we can with that. And we can add some lines here to mimic the socks. All right, so that's the pants. They're pretty much done. I'll hold Control, use my mouse wheel to zoom out. That looks pretty good. Hold Control, zoom in now on the bag. I'm going to stay on the same layer for this. That's going to make it easier to color a little bit later. If you want, you can decrease the size of your brush a little bit. So I'll go to 4 instead of 6 because there are some finer lines in this bag and it'll help people distinguish the bag from the pants. So first I'll start by outlining the outer portion of this. And this part's a little bit hard to see the detail of the bag. So here's the part where it overlaps with the pants. Just make sure that that connects there. And I'm actually going to leave that there for now and come over here to this part, like so. And let me Control Z. I'm going to redo this. I want to make sure this part of the bag isn't so jagged down here. So let's start the line over here. There we go. And then I'll come up top and we'll work on some of these details. And what I'll do is actually come over here. I'm just going to increase the opacity a bit so I can see some of the details a bit better. And now I'll come back. Make sure I'm on the sketch layer. I don't want to draw on the photo layer. I do want to sketch this little buckle here because it is an important detail visually. And you can also add some wrinkles here as well in the bag. That'll help bring some detail out. And we can do this little portion, Control Z. Drawing circles are pretty hard, especially in GIMP with the tablet. So there we go. And I'm going to hold the shift key and use my mouse wheel. I'm just going to rotate that a little bit more there. If you want, you can also try to add the dots along here, along the bag. Totally not necessary, but just to add a bit more detail. So now I'll do this portion here. Control Z. Sometimes you do have to go back and just sort of adjust the rotation. And we'll close these areas off. Make sure this area is closed off. So anything that we're going to go back and color, we're just going to close off. So all of these need to be closed off. That'll need to be closed off separately because these two items will probably be different colors. And lastly, I'll just add these little details here. Okay, so hold Control and zoom out. So I'll hold the Shift key, use the middle button on my mouse. You can also hold the Control key to make sure it's reset back to 0. So there we go. So now I'm going to put my pen down and the pen tablet itself. Next, we're going to use the fill by line art detection, which you can use with the bucket fill tool. This was introduced in one of the later GIMP 2.10 versions. This just allows you to very quickly go through and fill in all of the line art areas you draw in something like a cartoon, in this case like our sketch, and just quickly fill in those lines so that everything is nice and colored in. And so to do that, I'm going to come over here and just duplicate my sketch layer. So we can rename this coloring, hit the enter key. I'm going to drag this below the original sketch layer, hold Control and zoom in. If you see any areas that aren't quite closed off yet, so for example this area right here, just use your paintbrush tool and the same color line and just close those lines off. So it looks like everything else is pretty much closed off. And I actually missed a little detail here. So let me actually draw this in real quick. And we can add a little dot right there. All right, so now what I'll do is hit Shift B. That's going to allow me to grab the bucket fill tool. Then I'll come down here and make sure you're in foreground color fill, and then come down to affected area and click on fill by line art detection. If that option is not available to you, I recommend upgrading your GIMP to the latest version of GIMP. All versions are totally free. So making sure we're on our coloring layer, I'll hold Control and zoom in. So we'll start with the main pants area. If I hold my Control button and click, that'll grab a color from that area. And by the way, you guys can match my settings down here for the line art detection feature with the bucket fill tool. And when I click on here, it should fill in an area inside your lines. And what you have to do is just click and drag like so through your drawing. And then I'll scroll down here, so we'll go below. If it colors in areas outside of your drawing, like all around here, that just means that you need to, again, go back and close off any areas that perhaps aren't closed off in terms of the lines. So we'll just continue clicking and dragging this. So for this gray color, we're going to stay inside the line of the pants. And these are also going to be the pants. So we'll come over here, just using my spacebar key to move over in the image, and we'll do the same thing on this side. Just click and drag inside of the lines here that we want colored. So you can see how quickly this is going to work. Makes things a lot easier. And you can see the reason I duplicated the sketch layer is without it, this is what the fill by line art is going to do to your lines. So it just looks a little bit better when you have a sketch layer on top. hold Control and zoom in. So I'll hold the Control key, click on the socks to grab the socks color, and we'll just color in the socks area. Use the space bar to move over. We'll do the same thing here. And the socks in the lower half, in this case, are slightly different colors, so I'll just click on that. Control click, I should say, to grab that color. And now we have the second color there. Now we can do the shoes, so hold the Control key, click on the shoe color. That's a little bit too gray for my taste, so let me try that again. There we go. And we'll use the same color for this side here, since these are the same element. And I'll do the same right here. Next, I'll hold the Control key, grab this color inside of the tongue of the shoe. And I'm just holding the mouse while I drag it around, and that's just automatically coloring everything in. I'll do the same over here. And then I'll hold the Control key, grab this color, fill this little area in, hold Control, grab this color, fill this area in. There's our shoes. You could select a different color for that if you want. That color doesn't look great, but that's all right. So next I'll hold Control, zoom in, same thing here. So hold Control, grab a color that you like, and just click to fill everything in. How often you change the colors in here just depends on your preference. I'll hold Control and maybe grab a darker brown color here for the rest of the bag. Maybe go with a darker color right here for inside. Hold Control, grab this lighter color again. And I'll hit Control Z. So this portion needs to be closed off, so I'll just grab my paintbrush tool and I'm going to switch this color here just so I still have it there, and I'll change this color now to black. And with my paintbrush tool selected, I'll just close all this off. Hit the X key to switch back, Shift B to grab my bucket fill tool again, and now we can continue filling this part in. This portion is going to be outside the area, so we don't need to worry about that too much. And I'll hit Control Z. Control, grab this color so that the color for the strap is the same throughout. Hold Control, grab this color. And we'll fill this area in. Hold Control, grab the color over here where the pocket is. I'll hit Control Z. I don't want to back up too much. I'm just going to re-grab a color. I didn't like that color too much. That one's better. And I'll use the same color for this portion. And hold Control, grab this color here, maybe make this a little darker. Hold Control, grab this color down here, clicking with my mouse. These colors might be a bit dark, so I might have to change these, but for now we're just going to leave it. I'm actually going to have to back up a little bit. There we go. So Control Z to undo it and back up a bit. Hold Control. I'm going to have to redo this portion here. And there we go. And I think I'm going to have to do this portion as well. So make sure that's nice and filled in. And this color here. And I believe I did not put the line art for this portion here on the sketch layer. So I'll come back to the sketch layer, grab my paintbrush tool, and make sure it's still set to 4. And we'll just make sure that we've drawn, I'll hit Control Z, let me switch to black. Make sure that we've drawn over this line right here so it doesn't look all pixelated like it does right now. I'm just using the mouse for this portion. So I'll hold Control and zoom out a bit. So the line art portion, or the cartoon portion of our photo manipulation, is now complete. We now need to blend everything together so that it looks, the way we want it to look. Right now it looks a little bit sloppy. So what I'll do for starters is I need to mask out everything where the stroke has been drawn here. That way everything overlaps a little bit better. So what I'll do is I'll start out by coming over to the stroke layer and I'll alt click on the stroke. That'll create a selection area. Then I'll come over to my photo layer, right click, go to add layer mask. Under initialize layer mask 2, I'll choose selection and I'm going to click invert mask and then click add. So that'll mask everything out that's inside of our selection area. And I need to do the same thing but for the cartoon portion or the drawing portion. So we have 2 different layers for that, which means the easiest thing to do is going to be to create a new layer group, and I'll rename this line art, hit the enter key. We could drag both of these objects or these layers into the line art layer group. Right click on the layer group itself, go to add layer mask. We're going to uncheck the invert mask option so we still have selection checked. Click add and that will mask everything out. I'll hit Control-Shift-A. So there you can see now everything that's outside the stroke is the regular photo and everything inside the stroke is going to be our line art. If you want, you can hit Shift-C. That's going to grab the crop tool and we can come over here and let's type in something like 4:5, which is what a lot of social media channels use. And we just need to make sure that that option is checked for the fixed aspect ratio. So now when I drag my crop around, that's going to give me a 4:5 aspect ratio. I can adjust this however I want using the handles in the corner. So maybe we'll go with about right there. Click to apply the crop, and there's our final photo. All right, that's it for this tutorial. Hopefully you liked it. If you did, you could check out my YouTube channel at youtube.com/daviesmediadesign. Don't forget to click the bell icon to be notified each time I have a brand new tutorial. You can also check out any of the links to my resources in the description of the video. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.